All right. Hey, everybody. Brian Fouts here, and welcome to What the F Happened here Wednesday, the 5th. So, obviously, I'm not Chris Noggle. So, Chris and Steven are actually at one of our events in Dallas right now, doing an event for a lot of people. Some of you might be actually at the event, not watching this right now. It's actually live streamed too, by the way. So, if anybody has seen some of those ads out there, the event is being live streamed. So, if you want to watch that event, keep that in mind. So, we're going to go ahead and play a quick little video, and then we're going to dive right on into it. All right, we're going to go ahead and get everything set up. Where's the overlay here? There we go. All right, everybody. So on this episode, we're going to be talking about some things that are going on in the economy. But for those of you that might be new here, this might be your first time coming to one of our live events. So we do about 6 different live stream events a week. Wednesday is probably one of our biggest ones. We do WTF on Wednesday morning. We have our Wealth Wednesday webinar here a little later this morning. Also, we have our Ask Me Anything on Wednesday as well. We have our Monday webinar. We have our Take Back Control Tuesday webinar. So for those of you that are new, we do quite a few events. And this WTF, this one's really about is what's going on in the economy, what's going on in the world. And this show, as some of you have experienced, gets a little spicy because we cover anything from the markets to real estate to politics to all that kind of stuff. But this morning, I'm excited because I have Michael Podgy, a good friend of mine that I've known for, it's been 3, 4, 5 years now, something like that. Michael and I first met at an event down in Florida called Board of Advisors. And Michael is going to be kind of talking about his strategy and what he does, but more importantly, what he's seen in the economy right now, what's going on in the markets. And obviously, Michael is in real estate. So what's going on in real estate right now? So by the way, anybody who's on this call who's in real estate or experiencing anything in real estate, feel free to chime in, because what we're going to be talking about today is what people are experiencing in real estate in different strategies, different parts of the economy, the market, different parts of the United States. So I was actually pulling up some articles this morning, kind of checking out what's going on. And so I'm going to share my screen really quickly here. There we go. So I was looking at this. So like in New York, obviously New York is known for being very high end. Obviously they're seeing quite a bit of stuff happening there, but real estate funds have been buying distressed properties in the commercial space. So I find that interesting. They're finding distressed properties and buying those. Florida. So a lot of people seem to be flocking to Florida. And what I've been noticing there in some of the articles, and I know we have some people that are in Florida here on the call, but they've been saying that it's been slowing down. So in this article here, it was talking about how there was a big boom in Florida after COVID, but now we've just recently experienced the biggest decline in prices in over a decade. So that was very interesting. So we're seeing things kind of go the other direction now after this big boom. 2025 to 2029, 5-year housing market predictions. So this was a kind of a cool article, but they're talking about in this one that the sales of existing homes will grow moderately as buyers become accustomed to higher prices because prices surged. New policies on real estate commissions might change. New homes, etc., are going to are being built, but they're going up in cost. And this one was very interesting. So where did it go? This one right here. This was a pretty interesting article talking about starter homes that are over $1 million in different states. So you can see here in March of 2020, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 states. But now look at this. A lot of states now have cities where the starter homes are $1 million or more. I mean, that's insane. That's crazy. Tariffs. So we talked about tariffs, right? Tariffs right now have actually added let's see, what was it? It was I think it was like $10,000 to $11,000 to new home prices. Okay, so a lot of stuff going on right now in the real estate space. So, Mr. Michael Podgy. So, Michael, if you wouldn't mind, kind of explain your strategy of what you've been doing in the real estate space for all of our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brian, for having me. Appreciate you and, of course, your friendship, most importantly. My background, as you remember, is a stockbroker in Chicago for many years. I owned a stock brokerage firm, and I saw so many people that had hoped to retire at a certain age, and then they couldn't because the stock portfolio they had wasn't enough to, finally quit their job and be finished with it. So when I spoke with my wealthiest investors, they all had 95% or more of their money in real estate. So that got me thinking, why is it that most people only hear about the stock market and mutual funds, and they really don't get to learn about real estate? So I eventually sold my brokerage firm, and I went into real estate heavily, and I found that real estate's the way to build wealth and not have the typical volatility that you would have in the stock market. So my strategy has been buying quarter-acre buildable vacant lots. I mean, really quarter-acre buildable vacant lots, but only in fast-growing resort communities where there's already houses and already lakes, golf courses, and everything you need. And I've been doing that for about 25 years. And I got to tell you that that's been the absolute gold mine for me, because I don't have to worry about tenants or maintenance or repairs or upkeep or phone calls. It's one of the easiest and safest things that I've done in real estate.
Yeah. So vacant land. And kind of what area have you been doing that in mainly?
I focus in resort communities all around the country, but we've been in Texas and Arkansas and other areas as well. So we try to find areas that are cheap, under 20 grand, where they already have at least 10% built out. So there's at least some homes in there already. And we try to catch the wave going up rather than coming into a subdivision too late when there's almost no lots left and buy at the high. We buy at the low and ride the wave upwards and make a killing on the way up.
And so how do you cash flow those deals or make money from those properties?
Yeah, what I have tried several different things, but I noticed that if I hold them a while and let them appreciate, let's say I hold them for 5 or 10 years and they double or triple, when I go to sell them, I sell them on terms as if I'm the bank. In other words, I let people make me payments for my vacant lots over time so that I can have passive income. And normally the interest rate, Brian, is as much as 10 to 15% per year coming in from people making payments.
Wow. Okay. So now, as we saw in these articles I just pulled up, there's a lot of kind of, I don't say volatility, but cooling of the real estate markets, declines, not as many buyers out there because of but the prices have gone up. They've been going up. Mortgage rates are, pretty high right now. How are you seeing that sort of impact your area, that strategy?
It doesn't affect vacant lots at all. As a matter of fact, it's almost like a separate industry, because the housing market doesn't affect a $10,000 vacant lot. So if houses come down in price or take longer to sell, it doesn't bother me or faze me at all, because vacant lots at 10,000, no one's going to rush to sell a lot at 10,000 because houses have come down. So vacant lots typically hold their value during a downturn and appreciate when there's construction going on.
Okay, so have you seen a price change in the vacant lots here recently, though, in the last few years?
Yeah, only up. So since COVID was over, vacant lots have doubled since COVID was over in the subdivisions that I've been buying in, where during COVID, they didn't go up at all. So for 3 years during COVID, we didn't have any appreciation. But once COVID finished, every builder in town started building again. Once builders start building and everyone's fighting over the same lots, then it forces appreciation. And next thing you know, the prices are higher because of demand.
Huh. Yeah, because like right now, I'm in some of the areas that I've invested in. There's people are having a hard time selling homes. They're having a hard time finding buyers because people are worried about the volatility of the markets. There's uncertainty about what's going to happen, income uncertainty, that kind of stuff. But does that affect kind of the vacant lot market, that kind of stuff?
Actually, they're completely separate again. So, for example, if someone has stocks and mutual funds right now, and they wanted to change direction and get into real estate, you can get into real estate for vacant lots at 10,000 each and be able to not have to worry about the fluctuations to the same degree as you would in the stock market. So the appreciation of vacant lots doesn't depend on the housing market at all. When there's builders building in subdivisions, which they still are, there's still permits being pulled like crazy in the subdivisions that I'm involved with, and there's still people buying lots on a consistent basis. So the vacant lot market is not really affected by the housing market. In my opinion, we've never had a problem with it. They're almost separate, really.
So how long do you typically like hold on to those properties for?
Every person's different. Some people hold on to them forever and they give them to their kids when they pass away rather than give their kids a portfolio of mutual funds or stocks. Or they might need to live off of the vacant lots at a profit when they retire. So let's say someone turns 70 or 80 and they want to sell them and live off of that income, they can do that. Or some people just want to hold them for 5 or 10 years and flip them and then turn around and sell them on terms and become a passive income earner. They would earn passive income every month from a buyer who's paying them 10 or 12% per year. And that could be done all in a self-directed IRA. So most of my clients, Brian, as you remember, are either where they had an old 401k plan and they rolled it over to a self-directed IRA so they can use it for real estate, or they had an IRA at Schwab or Fidelity and they rolled that over to a self-directed IRA, which we helped them with. And that gave them the ability to do all of their vacant lots tax-free.
Yeah. So, do you see like a lot of the clients you have right now wanting to get their money out of the markets and into something that they feel maybe is going to be more stable? Or
people are wanting to get out of the stock market, especially after the last 2 or 3 weeks of volatility. I've seen people that had, a $500,000 portfolio now at $400,000, and they're sick to their stomach. It's hard enough to make $100,000, let alone to have it disappear within a couple of weeks. So people are really tired of the volatility. And this last few weeks, I've done very well helping people that sold off mutual funds and sold off stocks to get into something safer on the downside, like vacant lots probably won't go down, but they probably will go up. That's just more likely.
Yeah. Shane actually just says here, they have homes going up all around his area, large developments of single family, et cetera. So I'm seeing a lot of new family homes go up. The cost is getting higher. The cost to build is going up, but there's still buyers out there. But I'm kind of curious and I don't know this answer, if because of the mortgage rates and uncertainty in the economy, if even new home buyers are going to start being a little more uncertain. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know, Mike, do you have an opinion on that one?
I'm not sure. Again, I don't let that get in my way when it comes to worrying about houses going up or down, because vacant lots for me are a long-term hold. So if I buy vacant lots today, I'm concerned about where will they be in 10 years from now, just like mutual funds. So if I bought mutual funds today, even though they are more volatile and probably more dangerous in my opinion, but at the same time, we're not buying mutual funds to see where they're at a year from now or even 5 years from now. We buy them for 10, 20, 30 years. So the same thing with vacant lots. If you buy vacant lots and hold on to them, and then houses get built all around you over the next 5 or 10 years, then most likely the prices will increase. That seems to be the trend in any resort community that I've been in. So all I do is I go into resort communities, buy lots and hold them. I hold them in my LLC and I hold them in my IRA, my self-directed Roth IRA, so that when I sell them at a profit, I can keep all the profit and not have to pay any in taxes with a self-directed Roth IRA.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't had a 401k or anything in the mutual funds or anything like that in probably over a decade now. Because I remember when in 08 and 09, mine went down and it went down hard. I lost 40% in a matter of short period of time. And Chris, in our team, been talking about the markets. Hey, guys, if you got money in the markets right now, you got to be careful. You got to be on the lookout for what's going to be happening, because there's going to be some volatility coming up. And sure enough, look what happened. I mean, we're seeing it right now. we've been talking about it for, a year and a half, as Shane mentioned right there. And so, I've had some clients that have definitely got out of the markets here recently, or they went to cash inside their mutual fund, inside the 401k. They went to cash and avoided, this big loss. And now they're kind of wondering, when do I get back in? Well, there are other things that you can put your money into other than the markets. Obviously, real estate, vacant lots is one thing. So Michael, for you, how long have you been doing it again? How many years?
25 years. I mean, I practiced with vacant lots in Florida first, where there was no lakes and golf courses. In other words, it was just in regular subdivisions. And we did okay, except that as soon as we changed to resort communities outside of Florida, that's when we've made the most money, because resort communities have more demand. I mean, there's amenities and things to do. So when we changed our business model to buying lots in resorts, that changed everything for us. What a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. And what kind of so when you say resort communities, what's that really mean? Like, what are the features you look for in those areas?
I have very, very laser focused specific criteria. The areas I go into must have lakes, must have golf courses, and must have, of course, tennis courts, swimming pools, clubhouses, and lots of amenities, things for people to do. Because think about it, what you really care about the most is when you go to sell your lot later, will someone want it, right? The demand. And so when you think of a lot in a regular, boring subdivision where there's nothing going on, right, the type of people that would want to buy that lot would be usually, a husband and wife that want to build a house. Where if you have lots in a resort community, your buyers could be not only someone who wants to build a house, but it could be someone who wants to just buy the lot for the amenities, to use all the amenities, and for investment purposes, or both. So the market for resort properties, when you go to sell your lots, is so much bigger than just a regular common subdivision. So that's what changed my direction, was specifically staying in resort communities only, where there's added amenities and advantages.
So it sounds like kind of like higher income people would be the ones that are moving into those areas. So
not always, even regular common people, everyday common families will move in there, especially when the lots are only 10 or 20 grand. So anybody with a family can afford to live in Texas or Arkansas in a resort community where they buy the lot for 10 grand and have a house built. The cost of living are quite a bit lower than like Florida, where I come from, that's for sure. So there is a huge demand for areas that are low taxes, low cost of living. So that's another thing, Brian, you were asking about what is my criteria. There's quite a few things that I do look at besides just resort community. It's got to be low taxes, must be low cost of living, and also good schools, good churches, good banks, roads getting widened, shopping centers going up, so there's growth going on so that we can make money in our lifetime. And think about it, having a rental property is obviously a good investment for most people, but it comes with a lot of pain in the neck with the repairs, the maintenance, and the tenants, and the phone calls, and trying to collect rent. With a piece of land, there's nothing to do, including mowing the lawn, because we don't even buy lots with grass. We only buy lots that have trees on them, so we don't have to spend $70 every 2 weeks to have the lawn mowed. And that's another criteria, is only wooded lots that are in resort communities that are beautiful. What a difference.
Yeah. Actually, Shane here made a comment. He was, location is important. Of course, it is very important. He said his dad bought a piece of property, land by an airport, thinking that it would grow out 50 years ago. He still owns it today, but there's no buyers for that property because it didn't grow out. So location is important. So,
well, there are lots of buyers for that property. There's hundreds of them. What maybe that might need to be done is to advertise it differently. For example, I could pick any lot in the United States, any lot, and I can sell it quickly by offering 0 down payment, 100% financing, no credit check, everyone approved. That specific advertisement was my secret weapon that made me a multimillionaire. And that was from selling lots on terms when someone has bad credit, which doesn't matter, or they have no down payment, which doesn't matter, and they make monthly payments to me on time every single month. If not, they lose the right to buy that lot.
So interesting. So now, So they're creating cash flow by doing that. Because when I was doing owner financing real estate, I was buying properties subject to and then selling them on terms. It was insane. I did the exact same advertising. I would put signs out. I would use Craigslist. I would even use Zillow, and I would just put, no banks, owner financed, everybody approved, whatever it was, no credit and stuff like that. And man, people would come out of the woodwork to buy those properties, especially after 08 and 09, because what happened was people lost homes, they lost businesses, their credit got destroyed. They couldn't get into a home traditionally because banks, they weren't lending. And I would advertise real estate that way. And I want to do it again soon. I'm waiting to see what happens here in the next couple of years or so. But I want to get back into it. But you could help someone get out of a home that couldn't get out of it because maybe their mortgage was too high or whatever. And then you'd help somebody get into a home that couldn't get financing. So it was a win-win-win. I would stay in the middle, hold the paper, and make cash flow. And I had, quite a few of those deals. My last one finally sold here about, I think, 2 years ago. So I don't have any anymore. But same thing as what you're mentioning, Michael, is that if you can get creative with the way that you sell an asset or that you advertise it, there's a whole nother group of people that you can open up to that you might not otherwise think about. Because everybody thinks, oh, well, I'm going to go buy real estate. Got to go to a bank and get a mortgage. That's the traditional way people think about it. But in reality, there's a lot of other ways to finance real estate. Owner financing being one of the best ones out there, because it opens up a whole nother pool of buyers.
Exactly.
So I guess that sounds like it could be a way that a lot of people doing what you're doing can create cash flow on their deals.
Absolutely.
So now the one thing though, when you have an IRA, and I know a lot of your clients are rolling monies into an IRA from 401k, old employer 401k, and then into the deals. Now, doesn't the profit all have to go back into the IRA?
Yeah, you're right, Brian. So let's say that we were to buy 3 lots in a self-directed Roth IRA. Self-directed means you have control and you're legally able to buy real estate. We call it a real estate IRA. When you have that, if you sell a property, all of the profit goes back into the IRA, tax-free. And then if you sell it on terms and you have $500 a month coming in from a buyer, all of that goes back into the IRA. And the reason for that is that it's forcing you to save money, because you have to agree, Brian, most of us, and especially all of us that, are trying to get ahead, sometimes don't save money as good as we should. So the IRA forces you to save it, because otherwise you'd be spending it on vacations like I like to do. But the IRA keeps the money for your retirement so that you actually have something when you get older. And so the money goes back into the IRA, where you're able to reinvest it again in something else tax-free again, over and over and over again. It's an absolute gold mine.
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, as when you're 59 and a half, then of course you can take the cash flow out of the IRA, taxable income, of course, at that point in time, in most cases. There you go.
You start taking it out and no taxes paid, and that's the gift. So a lot of people have an IRA at Schwab or Fidelity or a bank, and that cannot be used for real estate. And that's the problem. You've got to figure out a way to shift your portfolio away from stocks and mutual funds and get into real estate. And if you can't afford Airbnbs or warehouses or self-storage, then get into vacant lots, because they're low cost to entry, between $10,000 and $20,000. And that gives you a way to still own real estate and have less volatility than, like, say, stocks or mutual funds, and still have huge upside. I've gotten lucky, Brian. My vacant lots doubled every 5 years approximately. So in other words, I approximately ended up with about 20% a year return on my vacant lots. And that's not a guarantee. We all know that. But when I compare that to the mutual funds I used to own back in the day, I would never go back into mutual funds or stocks again after what I went through all my life of either getting ahead and then going backwards again, and then getting ahead and then going backwards again. That's why I stick to real estate, and I have probably 95% or more in real estate.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And what you're referring to is self-directed IRAs too. So just keep that in mind for most people that are listening. What Michael's referring to is when you move your IRA from like Fidelity or one of those other big companies, there are specific companies that are mainly just custodians. All they do is hold your IRA, but they don't do anything with it. Like Fidelity and those companies, they're going to put it in the mutual funds for you because that's what they do. And then they make their fees off of it. Right. And by the way, if you guys were on the episode I did with Andy Tanner, and we talked about fees on how they destroy your portfolio, just understand that, whether it's through a 401k or an IRA, mutual funds, those fees are going to destroy your future wealth. I mean, the numbers are staggering. But he went through that math for us. So there's other companies out there that you can use where they hold the IRA, but you direct it, and then they can help you with what you can put it into, making sure that it is a qualified investment. Because in real estate, like if you want to put an IRA into real estate and then you want to go swing hammers and do a flip, you can't do that. If you want to go buy a rental property and you want to live in it, or you want your family to live in it, you can't do that through a self-directed IRA. That's against the rules, the IRS rules. So kind of keep that in mind. But so finding a good custodian that can do that for you and help you understand yes and no, what you can put it into or not, is a game changer. And I used to have a little thing, Michael. I used to hand it out to people, and it was for one company, and they had this whole thing they'd written about what you can do with a self-directed IRA and what you can't do. I don't have it anymore, but I don't use that company anymore either, by the way. But yeah, we've got some companies, and obviously you do too. So another thing, Michael, that obviously that here at BYOB in Money School, we do a lot of things around infinite banking concept. And so I've been really rolling around in my head about how people can use infinite banking combined with vacant lots, because you're being your own bank, you're putting your money to work. Now the only challenge with that one is that a lot of the things that we put our money into through infinite banking when we're trying to build wealth are cash flowing assets, or they're short term, 6 months, you get a 20% return, etc. Because there is interest tied to that loan that you take out from your own banking system, call it 5 to 7%. So that's why I've been asking the questions about the cash flow. How do you buy one of these things, hold on to it for maybe 6 to 12 months, and then turn it into cash flow?
Let me address that, Brian, because I have some thoughts. Number one, as you know, I have an infinite banking policy myself, and I went ahead and took out 90-some% of my premium, and I put it into vacant lots. I pay my payments every month from my businesses, so I don't need to have my vacant lots flipped or sold too soon just to make my loan payments. So the loan payments are not expensive at all. So most people can afford, a small amount every month to pay their premium interest payments, because if you do that and you let the land keep going up, you'll end up making probably more money than if you were to flip them. So flipping a piece of land and selling it means you're coming out of one piece of land at a profit and then having closing costs, and then going into another piece of land probably close to the same price, because if they went up, they all probably went up. Right. And that means now you're going into another piece of land and have closing costs and then have to hold that one. But plus all the time and energy put into finding the vacant lot and evaluating it. So I don't think that flipping lots is the answer. With mine, I buy lots and I hold them. And so the lots will probably appreciate way more than my interest payments would ever amount to over 5, 10, 20 years. So, it's not necessary to flip anything just to be able to make the payments.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. And Sonia, yes, this is recorded, and it is on our YouTube channel, Chris Noggle YouTube channel. It'll be up there here by this weekend. So that makes sense, because I guess another way to think of it is that when you're paying that, you're paying the loan payment back, but you're forcing yourself to take money to pay that loan payment back. But then again, what are you going to do after that loan payment is paid down? Just do the same thing again and just keep doing this. It's kind of a longer term game plan. It sounds like, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and as we always say, building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. And so one of the things that obviously why we're talking to you, Michael, and everybody here, is to share kind of some strategies that are available out there that you can use for whether it's just cash, IRA, or infinite banking to start building wealth. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring you on. But this is awesome information. So I'm guessing you probably don't have any vacant lots you've ever done in California, or have you done them in California?
No, not California at all. That'd be the last place that we would buy any vacant lots at all. Nothing meets the criteria. Low cost of living? No. Low cost of the lots? No. On and on and on and on. So we definitely would not buy in California or Florida or Illinois or New York, stuff like that. We're buying in areas that are absolutely beautiful, that are low cost of living and low cost to get into the lots. Like I said, between 10 and 20 grand.
So I was going to ask about Florida. So not Florida, huh?
Not Florida, because the taxes are very high here on property. So whatever I pay in, let's say, Arkansas or another state would be double or triple here in Florida. So we try to keep our carrying costs low by going into subdivisions, not where I live in Florida.
Okay, that's I was gonna say you're in Florida, but you don't buy there. And it's interesting. Most people want to buy. They always say buy in your backyard when it comes to real estate, right? But that's if you want to be a landlord. Also, it's because you're more familiar with your backyard than you are with another state potentially. But obviously, when it comes to something like this, you've got to go to where the lots are that are going to be the ones that you want to own. So probably not Washington State either.
Well, not only that, too, Brian. Everything can be seen now on the internet. We can use Google Earth to see the lots. We can easily research without having to actually, get on an airplane and go all the way over to any other location. So with vacant lots, they don't have to be in your neighborhood where you live. And you have to be able to get comfortable with buying the best choice in the United States rather than close to home so you can drive there and look at it every day. There's nothing to look at with a piece of land anyway. So
right.
It would be silly to buy one near your house just because it was convenient. You would rather buy the best deal in the best location and the best chances of it going up, which may not be in your neighborhood.
Yeah. Also, one thing I realized, and maybe you already mentioned it and I didn't hear it, but holding costs for vacant lots are very different than holding costs for a single family resident property because you have multiple holding costs there. Do you have to have interest, or I mean, not interest? Do you have to have insurance for a vacant lot?
No insurance necessary because there's no one on your land. There's no building or structure. So I own many vacant lots and I don't insure any of them. It's not necessary to insure a $10,000 lot. It would be a waste of money. Secondly, is that, by holding them, there's just nothing to do. Really, all you're doing is just sitting on them, letting them appreciate. So it's like mutual funds, but probably a little bit safer.
Interesting. Yeah, because obviously there's all these costs, hidden fees on real estate that people don't realize. I've heard these horror stories so many times. I'm going to be a real estate investor. I'm going to go buy a rental property. They go talk to first off, I don't want to say it's the first mistake, but it's oftentimes not the best first step. They go talk to a real estate agent, a traditional real estate agent, by the way, not an investor real estate agent, a traditional one at your local real estate office down the way. They find you a property, you buy it, and then all of a sudden you realize you're barely breaking even, or you're losing money because of the holding cost, because of the cost of insurance, capital costs, which people don't understand what capital costs are. You got to hold money aside for the big purchases down the road, like the water heater, the roof, the windows, the flooring, all that stuff. And you lose money all of a sudden because of those hidden costs. Taxes, as an example, right? Vacancies. But with the vacant lots, you don't have those things mainly, correct?
Oh, no, you have taxes, but they're really cheap. For example, I pay only like $80 a year on my vacant lots for taxes. That's nothing. And then the other thing, Brian, is that we all know of HOA fees. Those are for homeowners association fees. Well, the vacant lot, there is no homeowners association fees. There's property owners association fees, which is called POA, and those are only $42 a month. So, that keeps up the roads and, snow removal and whatever else is needed, and keeps up all the common areas and everything. So it's important to keep the subdivision looking beautiful and expensive. So those costs are insignificant, and over 10 or 20 years, to spend $3,000 or $4,000 in maintenance to have a lot that could be worth, $80,000 or $100,000 is amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So one person asked about vacant lots in Southern Indiana. You ever done anything in Southern Indiana?
No, I have not found any lots in Southern Indiana that meet my criteria. So it's such a specific criteria that only probably 4 or 5 locations in the United States would even meet my criteria. And that would have to be a resort community with lakes and golf courses under 20 grand with about 10% built out or less. And low taxes and everything. So Indiana is definitely not on my radar. I actually hire a research company that tells me what are the fastest growing resort communities in the country that meet all of my criteria. And so I pay quite a bit of money to find out that data so that I can be very accurate. I'm very focused and very narrow focused on my strategy, which is why it's worked. When I veer off of my strategy, that's when I don't do so well and I don't get ahead.
Yeah, stay in your lane, as they call it, right?
Stay in your lane.
And by the way, everybody who's listening, so Michael he actually finds vacant lots for people. So like if you're interested in this concept, I'll put my email in my email's on my little thing right there, brian@chrisnoggle.com. If you want to actually talk with Michael about this strategy, something you might be interested in, just reach out to me at brian@chrisknuckle.com and I'll put you in touch with him. But that's what he does. He helps other people get into vacant lots as well. Because to get into it, it is a lot of work. There's a lot that goes into it. Michael has obviously a lot of experience in this kind of space and other things too, as an entrepreneur. But yeah, it can be challenging. I've never really looked at vacant lots. I've looked at land in my area, Michael, up in Washington State when I was back doing real estate, and I never bought anything, and I'm glad I didn't, because Washington State is, oh my gosh, all the red tape you got to go through, and like especially King County. I mean, I one time built a garage on the other side of my property from where my septic tank was, and I had to pay a $500 fee to have someone to come out for 30 seconds and look at where my water or my septic tank was versus my garage, and walk away. So yeah, that's another good thing to keep in mind. So yeah, so Morgan asked, what methods does Michael use to find your lots? Well, there's a lot that goes into it, but Michael used to have boots on the ground. He'd hire people locally to go do it, or he was doing it himself, doing his own research. But now he has a company that goes out and finds those areas. But yeah, you can't hurt some of the things that he looks for. Fast growing resort community, has the lakes, has the golf courses, has all that kind of stuff. Schools, good churches, but it's not overly developed. That's the key thing right there. It's not overly developed. It's underdeveloped, and it's developing, so that you're buying lots that eventually are going to be worth more because it's going to develop more and more over time. Low taxes, low cost of living, that kind of stuff. And I'm guessing, Michael, for you, they're probably more in the southern states. Is that true?
We've had very good success in Arkansas in some of the very fast growing resorts there. We've done very well in Texas, things like that. And that's where we stay focused. We'll stay in a subdivision like that, Brian, for 10 or 20 years until we've doubled or tripled our money. And then from there, once the prices get too high, we'll still hold the lots for long term in most cases. But then we go to a different subdivision and start accumulating again, and we'll accumulate there all the way up the ladder until they get above 20 grand, and then we'll again leave and go to another location. So one location at a time is very focused and smart.
Okay, gotcha. Eve said, "What's his compensation?" Well, it's built into it, Eve. I couldn't tell you exactly how he structures it, but it's built into it. So, like, if you're buying it, like let's say you go and there's a lot for $15,000, maybe that might be what Michael acquires it for, and you might get it for 16, 17, 18,000, something like that. But he has cost built into that to go find it. So, and we've Michael, you've trained some people on how to do that, but what they don't realize is the time and cost to go find the lot. If you're starting from scratch, that's where Michael, I think, you have that edge. You've been doing it for so long, you know how to do it. So I've heard from some people that it was cheaper to go through you than to go do it themselves because of all that extra cost and travel and stuff like that.
Well, we're making thousands of offers a month, and as we get people that say yes, we have to then inspect the lot. So I have people that live in the subdivision that I pay to go look at the lot and take pictures for me. And we have to then do lien searches. We have to make sure it's buildable, make sure it's at least a quarter acre to an acre. So once it's past my criteria and everything meets my criteria, then it comes into our holding tank and then goes out the next day to the people on our waiting list that have ordered lots from me. So when someone says, Michael, I want 7 lots or 10 lots or 2 lots, they go on a waiting list, and then we find the lots for them within a week or two. So it takes me usually a week or 2 or 3 to find lots that are exactly what I would buy for myself. And then those end up getting transferred into the client's accounts, and I end up paying their closing costs also. So when I put a lot in someone's account for 10 grand, I even pay their closing costs because of the volume discount that I get for so many transactions per month.
Wow. Okay. So there's kind of some of the secret sauce right there, everybody, if you're listening to this. So part of this, is obviously low holding costs, low maintenance. It is a buy and hold strategy, though. Keep that in mind. It can be a cash flow strategy, but not immediately. So it's something where you can turn it into cash flow down the road once the maybe in 5 years the price of the lot has doubled. Sell or finance it, create cash flow. All of a sudden, that you have 5 or 6 of these things. There you go. So Michael, what would you say, like, these kind of the average cash flow on a lot?
Typically about $500 a month is what I've noticed, and a lot of it depends on what the new buyer can afford to pay. So what I do is I post the ad for sale saying 0 down, 100% financing, no credit check, everyone approved. So when someone says, how much do I have to pay you per month? I ask them, how much can you afford per month? Is it $500 a month, $700 a month, $300 a month? And when they give me that number, then I put it into a mortgage calculator at 10 or 12% interest. And I calculate how many years that the term would be. Maybe it's 6.5 years, maybe it's 7 years, maybe it's 3 years, depending on how much your new buyer can afford to pay. Once you've determined that and they agree to it, then you send over a one-page simple land contract and you're done. And you start receiving the passive income every month by automatic payment. So can you imagine having 10 lots or 20 lots or 50 lots all bringing in $500 a month, maybe $300 a month, maybe $700 a month? All that passive income comes in by automatic payment. You don't have to wait for a rent check. Unbelievable. So it's auto pay right into your IRA or auto pay right into your LLC. And every first of the month, you'll see your checks your deposits coming in on time. If they don't pay you, what is your risk? Brian, remember this? If they don't pay you, what happens?
You take it back.
Well, when you say take it back, you never gave it to them because they don't get the deed until they make their last payment. Just like an automobile. Think about it. When you get a car, you put a deposit down on a car and you start making monthly payments to the bank. That's not your car. You don't get the car title until you've made your last payment. It's the same thing with vacant lots. When I sell a vacant lot on terms, I don't transfer the title until they've made their last payment in full, and then the title gets transferred, and then they own it free and clear. So there's no risk to you selling lots on terms. So if you sell lots on terms and they stop paying you, you're not taking the lot back. You're sending a letter from your attorney saying, hey, you've defaulted, and you have 30 days to cure, and if not, then you resell the lot to someone else, and they lose the monthly payments that they made to you.
And what are they usually do? And then someone said, is this the guy from Bar Rescue? No, I don't know what Bar Rescue is, so no. Not sure what that is. But so I guess on this, what are people doing with the lots that are doing, if they're buying it like that on terms, what are they doing with the lot? Are they just holding it or are they doing something else with it?
Yeah, there are people that want to own real estate all over the country, but don't have enough money. So they learned about leverage themselves. Just like when you and I buy our own home and we put $100,000 down on a $300,000 house, for example, we're leveraging our money to buy a home for $300,000 because we don't have $300,000 sitting in cash. It's the same thing works with land. Same thing works with a lot of different things you can buy on terms. So people that want to be in real estate all over the United States that don't have a down payment or maybe have bad credit for something that went wrong during COVID, for example, they still deserve to be able to own real estate, and they can do it by just using the seller as their bank. And that's how I've made most of my transactions all my life, Brian. Even when I was first starting out, I didn't have any money to buy vacant lots, so I bought them on terms from the sellers. I did the same thing that I'm telling and teaching people, how to buy land on terms.
Yeah. So Lynn asked a great question as well. I was going to ask the same one. So if they stop paying, but they are building a house or something, and now they are squatting, is that a risk potentially?
They cannot build a house on a lot that they don't own. No bank would ever give them a loan, construction loan, to build a house without having the land free and clear in the buyer's name and the title of the land being used as collateral to the bank. So there's no way anyone could start construction on your lot. It's not their lot until they make their last payment. So they could never build on it. If they want to build on it, the bank would have to pay you off and now transfer title to you so that now the land can be used as collateral before the bank would ever give you a loan. So that will never be a risk or a concern.
Can they buy could they actually go buy the lot outright via the contracts you have with them?
They can. There's no prepayment penalty. So if someone is on a 5-year loan and they want to pay it off in 2 years, I don't let them. I don't bother. I don't restrict them from doing that. It's no prepayment penalty. I want everyone to be happy.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. But I mean, ever had anybody squat on a piece of land before, like squatters, like come in?
No, because the city would never allow that. If there's a tent put up in a neighborhood, or whatever, someone sleeping in a sleeping bag. First of all, anybody in their right mind would never sleep in the middle of a wooded tree lot with mosquitoes and snakes and spiders and raccoons. So if anybody was that desperate, I'm sure someone would find them and move them off of there.
Eve just asked the question right there, but yeah, so it's never happened before to Michael. So there you go.
No, I've never seen anybody squat on a piece of land in a subdivision where there's houses 5 or 6 lots down. so no one could even put a camper there. There's no campers allowed on a piece of land like that, just sitting a camper on there. There's a campground down the road for that. So there's restrictions on what people can do on their lots, especially in a resort community, which I like. I don't want my lot value going down because there's trailers and campers all parked all up and down the road. So I only go into areas that have restrictions on what people can do, and that is nobody squatting on the lot.
Gotcha. So is this strategy pretty competitive? You have a lot of competitors?
I don't want to say none, but probably very few. There are people teaching how to flip lots, but flipping lots is a full-time job. I mean, if you want to quit your job and you want to spend all day looking for inventory and making offers, discussing with sellers, and then checking for liens and walking the lots, you can do that, but that's not the way to become wealthy, is being a lot flipper. Buying and holding real estate is still one of the most successful ways to become super wealthy. So most people that come to me, Brian, have a job, have a career, they're busy. They just want to replace their mutual funds and their stocks with vacant land, so they can end up not having the concern about, what Trump's going to say or what China's going to do or what COVID was going to be next. They don't want to have to worry about that because vacant land, they're not making any more of it. And there's always going to be homes get built on properties and subdivisions, which will always increase the property of that value of that lot eventually over time.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. You mentioned Texas, one of the places that you do business in. And I was looking at this article here, and it mentioned definitely Texas as being like the Austin area, some of those other areas where they've cooled off. And so people I saw some chats about people concerned about their portfolios, rental portfolios in those areas, but you don't worry about any of that kind of stuff with this strategy.
Well, Brian, we're out of Texas almost maybe 10 years now. And the reason why is that we bought many, many lots around $9,000 or $10,000 in a resort called Lago Vista, which had lakes and golf courses and amenities. And 5 years later, we doubled our money. So we were selling them at around 20 grand or 21, 22, and we were selling them all on terms. 0 down, 100% financing, blah, blah, blah. So, but what I found was that here we are almost 10 or 15 years later, and the lots are in the $60,000 range. So I missed the boat by selling them too soon. So that's why when I talk about selling too soon is not a good idea, it's because of my own experiences when I would sell a lot at 20 grand that I bought at 10, and now they're worth 60. Well, I just missed all that upside because I thought taking a profit was the right thing to do. I didn't need to take a profit. I could have kept it in those lots and let them go up, and my portfolio would be worth $4 or $5 million more than it is today had I not sold them too soon. So I learned my lesson, which is to not sell lots just because they're up or just because they double. That's not the way to make true wealth. That'd be like buying a house at 200 grand and selling it at 250 or 300 grand just because it's profitable. No. What about 10 years later when it's worth 500 grand?
Right.
There's no reason to rush to sell a piece of real estate ever.
Yeah, that makes sense. You said, she said, I would think that no trees would be more desirable because removing trees is expensive. Well, I mean, it's not expensive.
Because paper companies will come and buy the wood from you. So you can cut down trees, and a paper company will buy the wood to make paper. So
I was going to say, you can actually make money by having somebody come and remove the trees. It's actually the opposite.
Correct.
You can make money.
And not only that, to have someone come and clear the trees down, could be $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 from someone that's coming there with a machine that just takes them down within 1 day. We're talking about a quarter acre to a half an acre. It doesn't take long to clear that. Yeah. And so I would rather do that than mow the lawn all the time.
Yeah. I mean, we had someone here in my neighborhood. Well, I'm out in the country, but one of our neighbors down the road, I mean, they had a quarter acre cleared out, and it took them a day and a half.
Not only that, all the homes in the areas where I'm talking about are in the woods. They're not cleared out. They actually just clear the driveway and they clear where the house would go, but everything else, including the front yard and the backyard, is all trees. So if you were to look at the other houses there, they didn't clear out an acre. They cleared out only just where the house goes and where their pool and deck and everything, but that's it. So you're not talking about a lot, and it's sparsely wooded. It's not where it's like, you can't even walk through it. There might be, 10, 20, 30 trees on there, and you probably would only be removing maybe five or six of them, let alone, the bushes, which are easy to take down.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone asked, he's already answered this before, I think, but do you have lots all over the country? The answer is no, because there's only, he said, about 5 areas right now that he's currently in or has been in that fit the criteria. So no, as long as it fits the criteria, yes, but definitely not all over the country.
Correct.
But there's
You
hot spots.
don't want to be bouncing all over the place, because remember, you have to know everything about the area, everything about the how many people are moving there, what are the taxes, what are the POA fees. So to actually jump around and be in all different subdivisions is not focused, and that's what causes causes the brain fog. So it's important to be very laser focused and stay in one area and do it very well and be an expert at it.
Makes sense. Well, cool. So once again, everybody. So obviously, I've known Michael for quite some time. I have a lot of clients working with Michael. Doing stuff with him. They own lots. They love the strategy. So that's why I want to invite him here, just kind of share some things, because as I shared at the beginning of this presentation, there's a lot of articles out here talking about real estate, and it's all fear mongering, in my opinion. But it's all dealing with single family residentials. It's dealing with mortgages. It's dealing with rental properties or commercial properties, all that kind of stuff. But what Michael here is doing is that he's kind of clearing the noise out and not really worrying about all of that stuff going on. So the same thing when we talk about infinite banking and using that as a way to build wealth instead of the mutual funds, the stock market, which is volatile, up and down, stressful. It's consistent, right? Michael has a strategy in real estate that is consistent, and that's kind of why I wanted to kind of bring him on here, because on these calls we talk about politics, tariffs, and Chris, and Steven can go on their rants, which I love it, and I've been on here before too, but this is kind of a unique thing here where it can actually calm things down a little bit by understanding what other strategies are out there that can be more consistent when it comes to building wealth, putting your money into something that is tangible, a physical asset, by the way, as well, which I love physical, tangible assets. I've been very big in the digital space for many, many, many years, and I've gotten out of that because I'm more focused on tangible assets now, things that have value, that will go up in value over time, all that kind of stuff. So when we're getting close to the end here, anybody have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat box down here, that kind of stuff. I did put in my email address above, brian@chrisnagel.com. If anybody, you guys want to talk to Michael or understand more about this concept, go ahead and send me a message, and then there's a presentation that Michael does that goes a bit more into this, that he's recorded, so you can watch that presentation. I think I have a link to it, but yeah, so pretty cool opportunity here. So what's the one last question for you, Michael, that I just came up with is how often or how long does it take to go through the process of acquiring a lot for most people? Because I know you have a waiting list.
Yeah, if they are just using their LLC or their name to buy lots, then that's less than a week. If they're going to need their IRA rolled over to a self-directed IRA, to a real estate IRA, that would take about probably 3 weeks. So we would help them with their rollover paperwork to get it moved to a self-directed IRA company. And when the funds hit, maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, we'll have the lots ready by that time so that they can be transferred into the person's self-directed Roth IRA.
Okay, because you mentioned you have a waiting list, but it goes pretty quick.
Well, yeah, because we're buying anywhere between 30 to 60 lots a month to fill orders. So depending on how many offers come in, that'll depend on how many lots we have available to send back out again.
Okay, so quite a few lots.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, any other questions so far? Someone says, keep trees away from gutters. Yeah. Where I live, we don't have gutters. Nobody has gutters here, pretty much.
Yep.
So, yeah, because of snow, 5 feet of snow will rip the gutters right off the house.
So Brian, I know that a lot of people are going to want to know more information when they email you. I'll be able to provide a webinar to them so they can see everything. I'll be able to showcase the lots, talk about, why resort communities, how to use your IRA for that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that people are thinking that they haven't even asked yet, but I'll make sure that people get all that information and understand it thoroughly before we ever help someone.
Yep, for sure. Awesome. Yeah, guys. So hopefully this was pretty informative. Obviously a cool alternative if you guys are looking to, put your funds to work in some way. This could be a good strategy to look at. Additionally, also why I wanted to bring you on, Michael, is I have a lot of clients that are doing infinite banking, and they're wanting to do real estate, but they're hesitant because of all the news, all the articles about what they're seeing in their own backyard in real estate. And I have a lot of clients saying, okay, I want to try to buy a rental property in my area so I can manage it and maintain it, all that kind of stuff. And so this is definitely one of those things where it's a bit different. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. It's low cost, low maintenance, all that. So yeah, Morgan. Thanks for saying that. Appreciate that. Yeah. Well, cool, guys. Well, I know we're right at the top of the hour. We try to keep these things we try to keep them to an hour. Usually they go over, but Michael, any kind of thoughts? Any last parting comments?
No, all I want to say again is that the wealthiest people that I have met when I was a stockbroker in Chicago was they spent most of their money on real estate, so that most of their holdings were in real estate, which got them ahead much faster than people that just relied on the stock market and mutual funds. So it's time to get out of the volatility, time to get out of the risk. When you think about it, the downside risk of stocks and mutual funds is at least 50%. A portfolio could drop in half so easily. But what's the upside? 6% a year, 8% a year, 12% a year, maybe? That's not good odds. But people still do it because no one's being taught about how to buy real estate, or to buy real estate tax-free, even better. Yeah. So that's the big challenge, Brian, is that people are being brainwashed by their brokers and their financial planners and their family that, have a 401k plan, have an IRA, buy stocks and mutual funds, and retire. That's not necessarily true.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, and I know you probably have a lot of clients that are concerned about retirement. That's a big one. A lot of people saying, I don't have enough for retirement, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, this is actually kind of a lower cost entry into the real estate market. But as you said, you can double, triple your money over time on this one. So absolutely, there you go. All right, Michael, appreciate you being here. Once again, everybody, if you want to learn more about this, feel free to reach out to me at brian@chrisnoggle.com. I put that in the chat up a little bit there as well. So reach out to me and I'll get you some more information. But with that, appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate all the comments, and see you. By the way, so today we also have the Wealth Wednesday webinar. On that presentation, I'm going to be going through the different ways that my own personal clients have been using infinite banking in their own lives, what they've been accomplishing. I'm hoping that some of you here who are on this call or I've talked to will hop on and share kind of your own experiences. But we're going to be going through how people have actually used infinite banking, the results they've got with infinite banking, and that kind of stuff. So I'll see you there. And also, of course, we got Ask Me Anything at 4:30 Eastern time. If you guys have questions on anything, money, investing, wealth, infinite banking related, hop on there and get your questions answered. So with that, take care, everybody.
Thank you, Brian. Good to see you again, sir.
You too.